republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, one thing I do want to say, if there's anyone here from 376 Yorkshire Way, you may leave. You are approved. Enjoy the evening.
There's just one thing. The only little thing was you have 4 trees being removed. You show 5.
There's 5.
Okay, but if
It's hard to see, but one of them's on a line.
okay, that's great. You're good to go.
We'll change that when we do the final submissions we want and preserve.
Great, great, thanks.
Okay, next is approval of the meeting minutes from last month, June 16th. And I do not see them attached, but Tricia probably sent them out ahead of time. So we can approve them or we can table them until the next month.
They look good to me.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, very good. Okay, so now we're moving to new grading permits. Is there anybody here from 798 Robin Hood Road?
Yes, right here.
Okay, welcome. If you want to come up to the front.
Okay.
Have you been here before?
2 times, but they're both virtual.
Oh, that's okay. It's
Should I
almost
go right
this.
here or over here?
So if you put your drawings on that table, Ian will zoom in on it so then we can see it on that screen over there or on our TVs in front of us. And then it's just pretty much the same as in virtual. If you can just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the project, and then of course we're most interested in the trees being removed, but it looks like you don't have any.
Yes.
So it's just about the dirt, the egress pattern, and how you're protecting the existing trees.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So, my name's Patrick Kane. I'm from DL Howe & Associates. I'm representing...
Hey, Patrick, if I don't say it, first thing they're going to say is, can you stand in front of the microphone?
Yep.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
thanks.
So, my name's Patrick Kane. I'm with DL Howe & Associates. I'm representing the applicant for 798 Robin Hood Road. Basically, the project entails constructing a patio and associated walkways. We will be removing an existing walkway in the front of the house. There was previously an addition done on the property, and a stormwater management system was installed for that addition. We're going to be abandoning the existing stormwater management system and replacing it with a new one, a larger system to accommodate for the impervious coverage that was previously added to the property and the new impervious coverage that's going to be added to the property. We tried to place the patio and the stormwater management system as best fit as we possibly could to avoid disturbance within the canopy of the trees, or at least limit disturbance within the canopy of the trees. There are 4 trees that have a canopy within that disturbance area, though. The stormwater management system, the existing stormwater management system, was located within 2 of those trees' canopy, and we're abandoning that one and replacing it with a new one that slightly touches 2 of the tree canopies, and then the patio is within a 34-inch beech tree canopy. I really tried to minimize the grading around it, but there is still going to be a cut of approximately 1.5 feet. So that's kind of where it's at. The homeowner really is trying to avoid removing and replacing any of the trees. They want to keep the trees on the property. It's just we're kind of looking to, I guess, get your guys' input on the project and find some type of a middle ground so that we can still move forward with the construction of the patio, the replacement of the stormwater facility, and kind of meet the township standards while also moving forward with the construction of the project.
Okay, great.
Yep.
James and Matt, did you have a chance to look at this?
We both did.
Okay.
I didn't see species, I think identifications on the trees, species and sizes. Is that correct? I'm having a hard time.
They should be on the plan.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, can you make that larger? Can you zoom in on the square box so we can? Yeah, and if they can, Ian, if you have control, can you put it on our computers, the screens? Because right now they're black.
So the four tree canopies that are located within the limit of disturbance includes two 34-inch beech trees, one 32-inch
Can you
beech.
point to them, Patrick?
Sure.
Yeah, because that's,
So this is the 34-inch beech here.
okay.
Here is a 23-inch beech. This is also a 34-inch beech, and this is a 32-inch beech here.
So Patrick, where's your protection?
So we don't currently have any tree protection fencing shown on the plan because the improvements are proposed within the canopies, within the drip line.
Because it would make it a lot easier for us to have an advisory opinion if we could see protection.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
I mean, it's hard to imagine what we would say if we can't see that.
Okay. We can definitely add the tree protection fencing to the plan. Do you guys have any recommendations on where you would like to see it?
I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but I think normally we like we don't want to, sometimes it's in a minimized way on the size of the tree. So
Okay.
it looks like it's protected, but it's really, the tree's bigger than that. And I think that's one of your problems that you already alluded to that.
Yeah.
That, that's one of the challenges with this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if the project goes forward and they lose trees, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to lose a heritage tree or more than 5 trees, and it doesn't sound like you have more than 5 trees at risk.
We have 4 trees at risk.
And you do have trees that are over 30 inches, right?
Yes.
You had a 32, yeah.
Yep.
Correct, the 2 beech trees. Mark, are you here representing the applicant as well?
Yep.
So, I mean, it looks by way of the plan that I saw yesterday, it looks like you're going to be infringing about 15% into that drip line.
May I introduce myself?
Of course.
I'm Mark Everett, I'm the landscape architect
Okay.
for the project.
Welcome. Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, thanks for having us out.
Sure.
So, the history of this property, Patrick was correct, is that it's in a climax forest. There's many beech trees on the property. And we've worked for years now with Jim Ward on selectively removing the hazardous trees, the ones that presented a danger to the house.
Yeah.
He went through Radnor Township, got that taken care of. And the client sat back for a while and then collected their pennies and then decided that their goal was to build a patio with a fireplace.
Yeah.
So when we looked at it, we engaged D.L. Howell to give us the survey of the property, the setbacks, and the building envelope. So you can see the building envelope is very small. There's not a lot of space, especially behind the house. The beech tree is right here. It is definitely a beautiful beech tree that we're looking to preserve. The current conditions that the beech tree is under is compacted lawn, which is probably the worst condition for the tree. So what we're doing with our landscape is, in addition to building the patio, is we will recreate a woodland setting underneath the tree with things like pachyra and ferns. So we're going to give it a woodland setting. During the project, what we normally do, even if we're close to the drip line, is we'll put protection around the tree to keep the construction guys away from it, and we'll sequence the project in where we'll build the patio first, and then come to the walkways. So we'll have tree protection around the tree, patio will get done. We'll be accessing the project like this from the driveway through here. So there's a current driveway very close to this beech tree, right? This beech tree right here. What we're also going to be doing is, because the grade falls this way, is there's a wall that frames the patio, and that becomes a fireplace. And then to protect the grade around the tree, this is a dry stack stone wall that'll be on a gravel base. What we're going to be doing is using an air spade for all excavation around the tree. So that way we won't be cutting roots. We'll be carefully excavating. If we need to sleeve the roots, we will. So we'll take all the steps necessary to protect that tree, because it is our goal
Yeah.
to work with this tree in mind and make it part of the patio setting.
Sure.
So that's our overall goal with the project.
You answered my question with the airspace, so you're good.
Okay.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing it right to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And then you will have tree protection fencing up, I assume. That kind of corresponds to the drift line to protect the existing trees?
Yeah, so in our construction sequence, what we'll do is we'll lay out the patio, we'll lay out the drip,
Mhm.
the seepage bed. The reason we're doing a new seepage bed too is the current seepage bed is right where the patio is located. Now again, I located the patio in the building envelope, but also within easy reach of the house.
Mhm.
I could have put it down here, but then we were getting into these trees and that would have made it impractical for the homeowners to use it, right?
Yeah.
So, to sequence the project correctly, what we'll do is, like I said, we'll build the patio first. That way, this tree will be protected at that time when the patio is being built.
Right.
Once the patio is done, then we remove that tree protection and then build our walkway and build our stone wall, and out we go. We'll do the planting at that point too. And when we plant, by the way, we don't disrupt soil. We're a big believer in then using the existing soil conditions. We don't do any tilling. We just like adapt to the soil and put the proper plants in around the tree. So beech trees, if you ever walk through the forest, almost nothing grows underneath of them. There's
Yeah.
very few plants that grow underneath them, and that's why they're climax tree, right?
Okay.
So what we do is we're very careful to replicate those conditions
Mhm.
and stay with it.
Okay. I think it sounds good, and someone had asked what happens if a tree has to be taken down or a tree fails, let's say a year from now. If it is one of the heritage trees, and that has to come down, then by the township ordinance, you would file permission to remove the tree. Let's say it's hazardous at the time. If it's hazardous, there wouldn't be any required replacements. If it's healthy and the owner wanted to take it down for some reason, then that would trigger the compensatory plantings.
Okay.
Which would be 6 trees, 4 would have to be large canopy.
Right.
So I think we can cross that bridge when we get there, hoping that all the trees will be healthy and survive, and that won't happen.
I
Does
think
that-
in this property's case, we would be happy to do that. Because it's so heavily canopied,
Mhm.
I think the best thing to do in that case is plant understory,
Mhm.
to like plant the edges with dogwoods and redbuds
Mhm.
and plants that would naturally grow under the woodland. There's not enough room to like do more canopy trees. It's already heavily canopied.
Yeah, we have a solution for that too if the time comes, but no need to cross that bridge
Okay.
now.
All right.
So, John, did you have anything? No. Okay, so any comments or questions? Oh, pretty.
I just feel like it's in good hands, these beech trees, so thank you for taking
Yeah.
such care with them. Appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure. That's our mission as well, by the way. Yeah, we totally appreciate what you guys do and want to work hand in hand with you.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it, and that's great. Any other questions? Okay, motion to approve? All in favor? Aye. Great, good luck with the project.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
906 Coopertown Road.
Yeah, that's me.
Welcome, Patrick. And this one just says landscaping plans. It doesn't inform us if trees are coming down, and if so, how many?
So there are 4 trees coming down,
Okay.
but they are, I can show you guys the demolition plan.
Okay.
So there's currently 4 trees proposed for removal. There's a 15-inch unspecified tree, a 7-inch unspecified tree, a 19-inch unspecified tree.
Do you speak into the mic?
Yep.
Or just bring the mic over to you.
Yeah. So there's 4 trees currently proposed for removal, a 15-inch tree, a 7-inch tree, a 19-inch tree, and a 27-inch pine.
4 trees?
Yes, correct, 4 trees.
And none of those trees are over 30 inches?
No, they're all, the largest tree is 27 inches.
Okay.
Yes.
that's just good to know. It wouldn't trigger anything in the ordinance then.
Okay,
Regarding
gotcha.
compensatory plantings, that's why we ask about that.
Yeah.
And are you removing soil?
There will be some soil that's excavated, but it's going to be redistributed on site. It'd be excavated for the construction of the pool and the stormwater management facility, so,
Okay.
yes.
So Patrick, the tree species aren't on this plan,
Okay,
and the tree protection isn't either.
okay.
Or at least I'm not seeing it. If it
It's
is.
not currently shown on the plan, no. I can add the tree protection fencing, and then I can also reach out to the client in regards to the actual tree species. When our surveyors went out to do the survey, I guess they didn't pick up the actual tree species type.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
we've requested that of other applicants, so
Okay,
I think we have to, do that in this case.
I'm sorry, do what?
It's part of the ordinance to say what the species
Oh, yeah.
is, and
Yeah. And I think more so, if you can walk us through, if you're putting in a new pool, what we would be interested in is the egress path and any
yeah,
trees that you're coming close to and just how you're protecting them.
okay, yeah. So egress would be off the existing driveway. I don't believe there's any trees in the front yard there where the existing driveway is, and construction vehicles will come off that existing drive and travel back towards kind of the side rear yard there where the actual pool is going to be constructed. One other important thing, I guess I forgot to mention earlier too, was the client is adding or recently planted 20 arborvitae or green giant trees.
Yep.
So that's just another thing that they did to kind of, I guess when they thought about removing those 4 trees, they wanted to at least replace them or screen them in some way or another, even though it's not required by the ordinance. Those are shown in green on the plan, by the way.
Ian, can you zoom in on the plan? We don't really need the notes, we just need more so the drawing in the center. Can you show us where the driveway is and how you're
Sure.
going to where the pool is?
So this is the existing driveway here. Construction vehicles are going to access the site off this existing driveway through these double doors, this double door fence, and then we'll access the backyard or
Okay.
where the pool is going to be constructed. These are where the arborvitae trees have been planted,
Mhm.
and then the trees being removed, as I showed you guys earlier, can be seen right here.
Are they the ones with the X's on it towards the top?
Correct, yeah, they're the one with, there's 4 being removed and they all have a red X on them.
Yeah, for me, I can't see the colors. I can't tell what's red, what's, this whole in-person thing is great.
I can point to them if you want me to.
the trees that have sort of X's or lines through them at the top, those are not being removed, right?
So this tree is being removed, which is a 15-inch tree. This tree is being removed, which is a 7-inch tree. This tree is being removed, which is a 27-inch pine. And this tree is being removed, which is a 19-inch tree.
Right, and those darker shapes up there.
These are not being removed, correct? Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from anyone?
Just that I think we need the tree protection, right? Has to be added. Good. And species of trees. Eileen?
Yep. That makes sense. The tree protection fencing and species, do we want to see the plan afterwards, or do we want to approve it with those comments?
I'm fine with doing that.
Yeah, I am too. Okay, great. So motion to approve the plan as is with the comment that tree species and tree protection fencing will be added.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Great. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, just checking. Okay. 250 King of Prussia Road, a parking garage? Okay, welcome.
Good evening. Bob Tucker representing the applicant. We are here as part of our land development application for the construction of a parking garage at the 250 King of Prussia Road property. Last month's meeting, you approved our replacement tree plan, and there was discussion about our proposed street trees. So tonight, we're going to be presenting our new plan that takes into account your comments last month regarding the street trees. Importantly, we are no longer seeking a waiver from the street tree requirement in the ordinance. So we think, we hope you will be pleased with the changes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe and then our engineer, Alex.
Okay, great.
I just want to let our committee know that Seth and I live on Radnor Way, and we met with Joe twice, and so I believe our comments are being incorporated in this plan as well.
Yes.
Is that right, Joe?
Exactly.
Thanks.
So good to see everyone tonight in person. So Alex will take you through the plan. We actually have two plans. One is the base plan that shows the revisions, what we had talked about last meeting, in particular along Radnor-Chester Road, between the existing building and the road, where the existing building is 4 stories. We had added 4 oak trees in discussions with the neighbors across the street. It was brought to us that it might be a good idea to maybe mix in a couple of evergreens that provide for more full year-round coverage screening of the building from the neighbors across the street. So that's an alternate plan that Alex is going to show you as well. So I'll turn it over to him and he'll walk you through the plan.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe. And so is this the old Penn Medicine site? Okay,
Correct.
that sits on the corner. Okay, great.
See if I can pull up the drawings here. Thank you. Yeah, just for context, as discussed, this is the original Penn Medicine building here, King of Prussia Road, the corner of Radnor-Chester Road, and then as discussed, the Radnor Way neighborhood is to screen left here.
Yep.
The proposals we discussed last month was the addition of this parking structure in the southeast corner of the property. And we already discussed last month the replacement trees and approved all that. But we had originally discussed last month, a street tree waiver, and we were only providing 50% of the required street trees on King of Prussia Road and Radnor-Chester Road. Both the Planning Commission and this commission asked us to take another look at that. One, coordinate with the Radnor Trail plantings that are being added. This is on the King of Prussia Road frontage. There is a portion of the Radnor Trail improvements. If you're familiar with the site, this parking lot up here sits high up on a slope, and then it drops a story down here, and then there's a lower parking lot. So the Radnor Trail is putting in a whole bunch of shrubs along that slope and one street tree at the entrance. So those are now reflected on the plans, and we also added additional street trees to be compliant with the street tree quantity both on King of Prussia Road and Radnor-Chester Road. The one comment we had, Joe alluded to, was the difference in these two plans. So if we focus to this corner, Radnor Way, as we discussed, is over here. So on the original plan that we submitted as part of our land development application, you can see there's 4 oak trees. as we discussed last week, there's an existing parking field here and a shrub row that blocks all the headlight glare, but there was a request as to whether or not we could intersperse some trees to get additional canopy cover. As noted, this back corner of the building here is where it's the 4-story bump up. So we had originally shown 4 oak trees here, but then as Brandywine and Joe met with the owners, there was the question, once again, as far as bringing in evergreens to get some full year coverage and a little variety along there. So basically what we're here tonight is really, I guess, to get approval of the street tree revisions we propose, but also get your feedback on which design approach you guys recommend, and we'll move forward with either one at your direction. To help aid in that visual, there are some renderings that we can show. Let me just get them loaded here if I can. So this is basically from the corner of King of Prussia Road and Radnor Chester Road. As you can see, this is the 4-story bump up, and this is the lower portion of the building. So here, this is the original 4 oak tree approach. Then here you can see we mixed in green giant arborvitae, alternating arborvitae, oak. And then I think the third tree is just a head-on view. This would be more the Radnor Way view, and this is the option with the evergreens mixed in, oak, arborvitae, oak. So we look for your feedback, and I believe, unless there's any questions, that's what we're proposing.
And Ginny, do you want to tell us about what the community said in that area? What the feedback was?
Well, the community suggested that, as they said, put in some kind of evergreen tree, so during the winter, you still have some screening there, so I'm sure the Radnor Way residents would prefer this plan as opposed to the 4 oak tree ones. They also talk, I mean, it's not so much communicating with the shade tree, but they also talked about the various kind of glass that's going to go in on that top story, so it's not reflective, and that was all addressed. So Radnor Way walked away pretty happy after we talked with Joe. So I would suggest maybe the Shade Tree Commission consider this plan with the evergreen trees. And I did have a couple of questions, though. How many, what is the size of these arborvitaes that you're intending to put in? You know, I'm just getting at how fast are they going to provide screening?
Let me review that. I think while I look this up, I think the only comment we want to make on the evergreen plan, and I think we discussed this a little bit last week, I think the only negative to the evergreen plan is it would require more removal of the shrubs at the bottom. I think with the oak plan, we could keep the shrubs, and then obviously the canopy would grow above. If we want evergreen, we would probably have to clear out more of the existing shrub at the base and allow the evergreen to grow low. But I think the consensus was that the low-level screening was still sufficient, even losing a couple of the shrubs.
Especially since you're talking to the Shade Tree Committee.
Right. Let me see. So those were green giant arborvitae. They would be proposed at the 6 to 7 foot planting height, bald and burlapped.
And is that, so one, I have a question about the size, and then is that the best evergreen to put there? Versus, I think of like a cryptomeria that typically, I think, gets larger than a green giant.
The cryptomeria would actually suffer from the oak eventually shading it
okay.
out.
Okay.
Where the green giants are going to just fill that space underneath the oaks.
Okay.
And we have green giants that grew, they were 6 to 7 footers when they went in 6 years ago, and they're 25 feet now. Like,
Okay.
they're fast growers.
Yeah, that
And
is
they're-
true.
They're also shed snow, so you'll never have any kind of snow break on
Okay,
those trees.
right. Unlike the cypress trees or,
Right.
okay.
And some of the neighbors on Radnor Way have green giants, and they're fantastic screeners,
good.
so they've worked out really well. I also wanted to know, though, how many trees are you planning to put in along King of Prussia, and how many are you planning to put in along Radnor Chester? Is it just the 4 here on Radnor Chester?
Oh, no, it'd be full compliance with the code standards. Let me pull up the landscape plan. This is the street tree section here. So King of Prussia Road is 640 feet, so that's 22 required street trees. There are 7 existing trees today. Radnor Trail is adding 1, so we're adding the remainder of 14. And then on Radnor Chester Road, it's 415 feet, requiring 14 total street trees. There are 6 existing trees, so we're supplementing the additional 8. So as far as street trees go, it would be 22 additional by us and 1 more by Radnor Trail. And then there's some additional parking lot trees, and then the required replacement trees that were approved last month. So in total, I think we're up close to 50 trees or 40 trees.
Okay. And what kind of trees are you putting in?
It's a combination of October Glory, shingle oak, English oak, lilac, cypress, and zelkova. And then in our rain garden, we're doing some red buds and magnolias with some shrubs, but that's within the rain garden for our stormwater facility.
Okay, thanks.
So I was just noting to Matt, that's a lot of Zelkovas, 12. I was just kind of looking at the biodiversity. Matt was just saying from a pruning perspective, you know, if they're pruned, they should be fine. But John Haas, back to you. Does the diversity look okay?
A little off, sure.
Meaning it's a little heavy on the Zelkovas?
I like to see a little bit of a mix.
Yeah.
We don't have more than 10% of one species.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think,
We could break that up a little bit.
Not opposed to the Zelkovas, but obviously, you know, a little bit more diversity will go a long way.
okay, we can look at that. I think they're planted in a bunch of different portions of the property, so I'd have to look to see if the landscape architect made that decision to supplement the existing species that are out there today. The concern might be that the existing diversity is already one side and she was mixing it up otherwise, but I can bring that to her attention and see if she recommends anything different there.
Okay.
Because there's 1 here, you know, 3 here, a couple over here, so they're mixed throughout the site, and they might have been selected for a reason compared to the existing facilities, but we can review that and discuss that with the Planning Commission
Okay, that would be
in our
great.
revised plans. Correct, yeah, a lot of those are the parking lot trees internal to the site. Correct. Yeah, along the frontage and the street trees, I think these are the oaks and then some of the ornamental trees.
Yeah, and the request for diversity is just for healthy and longevity of the tree in case one gets diseased. So it doesn't really matter to us if it's interior or along the street.
Right. Yeah, understood.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? God bless you. Go ahead, Jay.
Instead of the 12, go with like a lemon plane tree,
Right.
or I think, say, a parking lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, London plane tree and maybe a Nyssa sylvatica to mix in there. I think they would work all right.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, great. Motion to approve? All in favor? Aye. Great. And thank you so much for working with the community and taking into account their input. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, super.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're down to number 6, violation notices, 506 Showmont Drive.
Madam Chair, I can take that. So this is ongoing. Owner of 506 removed trees without a permit. working with the attorney at this point to send a violation notice. Once that gets worked out, I'll report back at the next shade tree meeting. But what I would like to do, take a moment, is to introduce my colleague, Ricky Foster. He is the Acting Director of Public Works. If you don't know him, please get to know him, you will. So over the next few months, we're going to be transitioning to, you'll have more of Ricky and less of me. So hold your applause till the end. But, so Ricky's a great guy. He's already been taking over the hazardous trees, the calls we get, so that transition's already begun. And he's really here tonight just to be introduced, so you get to know him. As time goes on, you'll be receiving more emails from him, less from me, and he'll be working with you on things. And just so you know, I'm always here as a resource for you folks for anything as time goes on, anytime, whether I'm at this meeting or not. But Ricky's a great guy, a great colleague, and I just wanted to make sure you all met him.
Okay, that's super. Welcome, Ricky. We're happy to have you. Yeah. And Steve, we're so glad that, obviously, we know where you live, and we'll still be reaching out to you because you've been a great resource for us.
And
So-
I'll still be taking care of your bid packages
Okay,
and those
good.
types of things, right? So you'll still be stuck with me in some cases, but we'll get everything done, and you'll love working with Ricky.
Okay, cool. And then, Ricky, just a quick question for you. With regards to all the trees that we planted last fall, particularly those in the WBA, about 60 of them, will you be the person that would be responsible for watering them, like through this hot summer, to make sure our investment stays green?
I have been.
Oh, super. Thank you very much.
We talk on a weekly basis regarding watering, so Ricky's definitely on it.
That's
And even
wonderful.
there's a couple that have died in front of the wine and spirit store off of Route 30. I've already talked to John, and we're going to be replacing those species.
Okay, super. And I think there was one in front of the Sherwin-Williams store.
Okay. I'll make note
Yeah,
of
it's
that.
already been removed, but it would still be under warranty with all seasons.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Can I ask?
Of
too?
course.
Ricky, the trees that were planted in the Friends of Radnor Trail in the dog park section,
Yes.
I was just double checking, how are those doing?
They're doing well. That's part of the list. We have a list that we have a jet truck that goes out from sewer. They do the majority.
Okay.
And then we have a smaller pickup with a water tank on the back, and they do the smaller areas. So
Fantastic.
Ford is one of those areas.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's keep asking questions, let's go down the line here.
Now I know whose email to get. When I snap a picture of a tree that's struggling, that's perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so, new business, fall planting. James, we have that under your name.
Oh, yeah, I was just, since we're not planting any trees, we didn't plant any last year. We didn't plant any this year, I was
We
making a.
planted a lot last.
Was it?
We pl- Yeah, we planted a
We
lot.
planted last year, too?
Yeah, about
In COVID?
over 135.
Yeah, that was a
Because
banner
we did
year.
about 70 in the residents and about 60 in the WBA.
I didn't think we did any in COVID.
They're looking fantastic.
good,
I'll show
good,
you a
good.
few.
Okay, well, we didn't plant any this year.
Correct.
I was thinking if we could get like $1,500 to $2,000, we could order some smaller trees, and I would go out there, and we could plant maybe 10 or 20,
Yeah.
if everybody agreed to that, and if the township would allow it.
Yeah, no, that's a
That
great,
way we plant something.
yeah,
this
that's a
year.
great thought. And I just want to do a pulse check. Have we unanimously agreed that we're not doing a fall planting? I think our budget supports, and Seth and I have talked offline about, and Ginny too, about postponing it to spring of 2022 with the idea of doing one big planting. We'll get different trees. We don't have to worry about fall dig hazards. Everybody's nodding, so it sounds okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have money for it, I don't think, right?
I think we have around 5,000,
5,000.
so, and we could ask for donations, but I think that makes sense just to postpone to 2022. Correct. Okay, good. Okay, so we'll take that as a decision to plant in 2022, targeting the spring of 2022 and holding on 2021 due to funds, with regards to the typical fall planting.
Okay,
So now to James' idea.
gotcha.
So we do have, I think, around $5,000 in the fund.
It was about 5,000 and change, Madam Chair.
So, James,
So,
I
so
like
we
your
could get
idea.
some, like, I place I work with,
Yeah.
they have container plants. We could get 20-gallon containers, and I think they give me 20 and 15-gallon. So you're gonna be around 6 to 8 foot, 10-foot trees.
Yeah,
And if we could get minimum orders about $2,000.
right.
So they would deliver right here or to my shop or something, and then we just go and plant them
Okay. And,
wherever.
and so to folks here, would would you propose that we do it the typical way where we have residents sign up and see, does the WBA need any? Or would we target a park for all of them? Any thoughts?
Is there any parks that need it? Does anybody know?
So James, what I would ask is offline, you could work with Ricky, who, as acting director, he maintains the parks, and Tammy Cohen. So they would be the people in the know to talk to about parks.
I would suggest avoiding residents because we really don't have enough to offer, and so that we can really offer residents a kind of a real crack at it. But I like the idea of working with Ricky and Tammy and John with the parks and what the township needs.
Right. And
For
Claire,
this.
I guess you could even ask the Park and Recs Committee if there's a certain park that the team would like to target.
I can.
Okay. I think that's a really
It's
nice
good.
offer,
And,
James. Yeah.
The trees I was thinking about were Acer rubrum, Nyssa sylvatica, Platanus exclamation, some oak trees, Alba, bicolor. That would be 10 if we got 2 of each. The price would come to $12.96, and then delivery's like $400 or something. So you're right around $1,600. We'll get 10 trees.
Yep.
I think that's enough for me to.
I
Yeah,
think,
but they're real small. They're not going to
Yeah.
be like the other trees,
yeah.
but they're all shade trees.
Yeah, no, yeah, they're all large canopy trees, which
yeah.
is great.
So
Yeah, I think that's super. Any questions? Motion to approve? Aye.
cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got to plant some trees.
Okay. I guess they're RFP?
I know,
Yeah.
Can I work offline with Ricky to give you the invoice and?
Or maybe Steve, because Steve would be doing the bid
or Steve.
package.
Yeah, so James, what I would ask, if you don't mind, I think it's a great idea and it's very generous on your part, but it'd be great if you could compose a letter to that effect, send it to the township manager, email it to the township manager, saying, you know, this is what we'd like to do. James Gibbon Landscapes is going to donate the time and you know, labor supervision to plant. You're already a registered contractor, we know that, and arborist. So that would probably be the way to go. And like I say, meet with Ricky and Tammy, because, so it's twofold. So Ricky takes care of the parks, and Tammy does the planning. So if she knows of an event or maybe some possible future project, she'll be aware of that and can say, hey, that's not a great location, or it may be a great location in a year, once we know what, if anything, is going to occur.
Okay,
But it'd be great to formalize that.
got it. I'll send it out next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's super. The next one is the ordinance update. Since we don't have Seth and Frank here, I would say we hold on that one until next month, because Frank in particular had a lot of comments. We would still absolutely take public comment and community comment, but versus going through the Excel sheet, I think we should hold on that. Okay. Then the tree canopy request for proposal. I'm not sure what that is.
Hey, man, that's me.
Okay, good. Go right ahead, Steve.
I should have expanded on that.
That's okay.
So, there's been a lot of talk about the tree canopy and the concern for the tree canopy. So the township manager thought it would be a good idea if we went to, trying to look through these boards here, if we went through to a request for proposal to bring in a firm to actually analyze our tree canopy and tell us, what does Radnor have? But it would be more than that, and I had, on the email I sent to you and Frank, because Frank's been involved in this, and he's
Yes.
already sent me some great information. We wanted to do this in conjunction with the shade tree. So it would be more than just, okay, Radnor, here is your percentage of canopy. First, you know, we need to determine and put in our RFP how what method is used to determine that. but also best practices. Where does Radnor stand for an urbanized suburb? Like, are we where we should be, or are we below? Is there a way they can tell historically where we were 10 years ago? And where are we trending? And any other questions or thoughts the Shade Tree Commission would have. So usually, the thought would be the Shade Tree Commission, maybe a subcommittee, would peel off, and you could work with staff, with me, and we'll come up with, you give me your ideas, I'll put them down as nuts and bolts in the proposal along with all the other good stuff. And then at the end, I create a grading sheet and we have a team. This is how we do our RFPs. So I would have a team that reviews the proposals. And usually we come up with a short list and we interview those firms. And then we make a recommendation. So I would ask the Shade Tree to be in on all those steps. The creation of the RFP process, the eventual recommendation of a firm to the Board of Commissioners, and then, the product itself.
Yeah, I think hearing that sounds great, because we have talked a lot about that as a committee. And I know Frank has been very interested in that and looking at potential solutions. So any questions or comments?
I guess my question is, how does this dovetail into what Matt's been doing with his survey?
I think, Matt,
So
you would
I'll
just
let
have the
Matt,
street trees.
Matt and I talked on this. He'll fill you in.
Yeah, I mean, so the survey is actually getting long in the tooth. It's been 3 years. And the survey was street trees. So it doesn't really get to that $1 million question about, where is our canopy and where does it stand? And so that it's part of it, and I'm happy to help in any way anyone wants me to help. But in terms of the street tree survey, I mean, I'm not really interested, I don't think, in doing it again. I guess I could be cajoled into it or talked into it, but that was a ton of work, and it's 3 years old. So
Yeah.
I don't think we can rely on that survey as much as we could have
Well,
a year ago.
Yeah, I would say there's somewhat apples and oranges, because I do think the canopy will tell us overall, including all the interior trees. Yeah, and I think, Matt, where we still need to take advantage of all the hard work you did is exporting minimally all the hazardous trees, giving them to Ricky, and then getting those removed. With the whole
Right.
idea of, hey, safety first, let's keep the lights on.
What's happened, though, is like just anecdotally, when we drive around and we look at, like, the old survey,
Yeah.
the Radnor's already taken a lot of those
Oh,
trees.
that's good. No, that's wonderful. That's
So-
exactly what we want to see.
So that process was it was a more casual than it could have been, but it was effective at some levels,
Okay.
so.
No, that's great. Okay,
Any idea of
other-
how much this costs?
Do you mind if can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I feel like I can't see anyone behind this thing.
I know, it's a little,
And I don't know who I'm addressing this question to, I'm sorry. So a part of this RFP include also, so not just an assessment of where we are, where we stand, and how we measure up with regards to everybody else, but also, what needs to be done, what kind of work we need to do, because I know, I spoke at our last commissioner meeting about making an investment in, not only the management of this, but also the people that do the management and providing them with some of the funding that is needed to do the management, whether that's our own staff, internal, external, combination of both. So, Steve, do you, or I don't know, Matt or whomever, do you envision this also including kind of a recommendation as to what we need to do?
Yes, Commissioner. So that was, I was talking about, like, what are best practices moving forward? What should we be doing? Where we stand? And Ms. Pilling just told me about, what's in the Practical Energy Solutions report, and that's great, and that's great stuff. The thought would be we would get deeper into this, not just what our canopy is, and a lot of this will come about as we dig deeper into it, and I don't know that we can. Can we say, like, what is the percentage of age of our canopy? Is it robust? Is it in decline? I don't know, and I'm not sure And this is what I would work out with the subcommittee along with some research. We also have a great resource in the arborist who's very well versed on these things, and that's how we would create that. But yet, the goal would be not just raw data that says, here's your canopy, here's where you stand, but it would be, here are plans, here are suggestions, best practices for moving forward. And I think our residents have brought that up. This committee is. So do those things make it into the revised ordinance? You know, that's what we're looking at.
And the budget?
And the budget, ma'am.
I think, James, that segues into your question?
Yeah, just curious if anybody knows how much that would cost about.
I do not. And that would be, when we put this out, we would see what those cost proposals are. And part of that is also how we ask them to calculate it.
But is it like 5,000 or 50,000?
Well, a community in Maryland did it, actually HOA. That's approximately 300 acres, and it was a little over $100,000 for this program.
We're 14 and change square miles, so.
So it could be rather pricey, I suppose.
So would it be better just to spend that money on planting trees?
My thought is, let's see what it's gonna be. And again,
Yeah.
what we ask for and the way it's determined is gonna really determine the price. So the creation of the RFP and putting it out, there's zero cost. It's only a cost if it gets awarded. So other than your time, my time, I mean, so there is resources being expended, but there's not funds. So my suggestion is, let's see what happens, and then we take it from there.
Yeah. Perhaps it could be something more like simple aerial photographs. Compare before and after. Yeah. Yeah, we could do a couple helicopter rides, perhaps. Okay, so, one, I'm comfortable volunteering Frank to assist on this project. All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, good. Okay, Fennimore Woods Park update.
That would be me again.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let everybody know where we stand, what's going on. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that the Shade Tree Commission and any folks in the audience or anybody listening understands that there is no movement on the park plan, right? There is no movement by staff. There is no movement by the consultant. There is no movement whatsoever, right? So nothing is happening towards that plan. It's anticipated. It's going to be in front of the Board of Commissioners at the August 12th meeting for direction to staff, right? And I don't control the agenda, but that's what we're anticipating, that on the 12th, we would get some official word on how to move forward in some direction. And lastly, I don't know if you're aware, regardless of the park project, there are 29 hazardous trees that have to be removed. Of those 29, 10 were in need of immediate removal. So this was approved at the last Board of Commissioners meetings. So my colleague, Ricky Foster, is getting the requisite 3 prices for the removal of those 10 specific trees. And the remaining 19 had a time period of a year and a year and a half. We don't know if they would all be a year and a half, or we're going to monitor them. If something becomes a safety hazard, it would be addressed in short order. If not, we'll just keep monitoring them until they come to the point where they are. So that was the third point on Fennimore. But again, just so everybody understands, there is zero movement on the previously proposed park revisioning plan.
Okay. And when it goes to the board, is there a recommendation at all that's being presented to the board, or?
No, we're asking the board for direction.
Okay. Okay, great. Any questions on Fennimore? Okay, super. So that brings us to hazardous trees. Any questions on the trees listed? I know I had somebody call me about pine tree, so I'm glad to see that's listed. There's 2 there. Okay, then last item, public participation. So, any comments?
Good evening. Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue, one of the advisors of the Radnor Green Team. I think from the news and from what we're experiencing now, that everyone understands that climate change is happening. And if you didn't realize yesterday, if your eyes were not watered and if you didn't feel like hell, frankly, you weren't aware that the smoke from Oregon was over Philadelphia yesterday, and there was a hazardous health warning. So this is the issue. I encourage the township in keeping as much canopy as possible, being very judicious in the taking down of trees, knowing that we're an old community, that an ash was an excellent street tree, and now they have emerald ash borer, and the Norway maple was a desirable tree, and now it's almost considered an invasive. And I was a person who was lucky enough to live on a road that had the American elm, which was gorgeous. And when the last tree came down, I did cry. So this is what's happening. We've got trees that are no longer suitable, and we have old trees that have gone by. But to just take down trees and put in a 6-footer, I don't know what this group thinks about the timetable of climate change, but any scientist will tell you we have 10 years, period, max. So I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about heat islands. And I live on a street on Garrett Avenue where you all know there are no street trees because there can't be street trees. And Climate Central has just put out a big report, and so has the Urban Agriculture Department, on the effect of heat on people's lives, because it does kill them. That's been proven as to what's happened in Oregon and in Canada, where they don't have air conditioning and over 400 people died in that recent heat thing. So I really wanted to encourage you to be thinking about the trees you take down and the trees you replace, because you may not have time for them to be effective. So I pulled a little something off of Climate Central's report today because I thought it was very interesting. It says that 85% of the United States population lives in a metropolitan area. Neighborhoods in a highly developed city can experience peak temperatures that are 15 to 20 degrees hotter than nearby areas with more trees and less pavement. And I don't know how to do it myself, but I think a snapshot in Radnor was to measure the temperature on Williams Road under the trees on the same day as the same time as you measure the temperatures on Garrett Avenue, who has no trees. There are now there are 159 cities in the United States are suffering from the intensity and the situation called urban heat islands. And the cities with the 5 most intense urban heat are New Orleans, Newark, New Jersey, New York City, Houston, and San Francisco. So I think this is very, very interesting. They do come up with some solutions. The first is trees and vegetation. We all know that. The second is green roofs. So I think planning and zoning should begin to think about this. The third is cool roofs. Now, that mostly applies in the city. Think of all the flat roofs in West Philadelphia. If they were white, it would reflect the light. But there are flat roofs in Radnor Township. And I don't know what you do with an individual, but it's interesting. And something that I did not know about is cool pavements. And I'm going to look into that because I think that's something, again, that planning should begin to look at, because we need to change the curve to protect people. That's about all I have to say, but this is also something that our green team is working on. And I know that EAC is working on it as well, so you're not alone. And I hope we can communicate with each other. And I hope that, it's my prayer, that people in Radnor will embrace climate change and begin to think positively about it and accept the fact that it exists. We're not going to drown from sea level rise, but I think heat is what's going to get us. And one of the strongest mitigation factors is for us to protect and complete and build a tree canopy. And if it's not for the next 10 years, it's for the 21st century. Thank you.
Hey, Sarah, just a question. So one, thank you. As an engineer, I love all the data and facts. That's fabulous. And maybe you can leave that with us and we'll make sure it gets in the minutes. But just a question for you. When you say you live on Garrett Avenue, is that in Garrett Hill?
Yes.
Can you help us plant trees there? We have tried to plant trees there.
There's no room.
But it's a whole neighborhood there.
The setbacks can be as little as 5 feet behind the sidewalk. Garrett Hill is old.
Right.
Started to be built before 1900, long before zoning came to Radnor, and the houses were built. The sociology of it is, other than what I'm going to call the natives, they were first Italian immigrants.
Can I just, still have other people
Right,
to get through.
but
If I can just interrupt versus the history lesson.
There's no room.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
issue.
That's great.
If you have 5 feet, you've
We
got a lot.
identified spots, but we can't get residents to say yes. So
They don't want trees because they don't want leaves, they don't want pruning.
that's where we need your help. Yeah,
I have a tiny property. I have 13 trees on it.
yeah.
But
That's great.
none of them are canopy trees.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. More public comment?
Good evening, everybody. I just want to start by thanking you all for your public service. You spent a lot of hours doing this, and it's your heart's in the right place. I really admire you for doing it. I don't know how you find the time to do it, but we really, really appreciate it. We've made a lot of noise about Fennimore Woods, just me, and never been involved in local politics, but I've gotten involved because of this issue. It's a park I grew up going to with my family. We formed a little coalition to save it, and I'm so happy to hear the plans to, well, I already knew this, but that we are putting it on pause. I just wanted to speak to the tree ordinance, because I feel like this has grown out of a weak tree ordinance. And I think, Madam Chair, if I want to first of all thank you for speaking with some of members of our coalition and sharing some of the draft of the new ordinance. And your responsiveness has been incredible. Again, we're all just temporary caretakers. You guys are, and we are. And even with the best intentions here and on the Board of Commissioners, we have an ordinance that is too nice, I think, especially considering the crisis that Ms. Pilling just described. It's accurate, it's factual, and the crisis is now. It's not 10 years from now, it's happening right now. And I think we have to respond as if we're in a crisis, which means we need a policy that distinguishes between, just for starters, between private and public property. And the ordinance that governs tree removal in those places. And we're not talking about unsafe trees or sick trees. We're talking about just elective tree removal for a project that someone thinks is a good idea. I think we need to put a hard stop on it. That's where we can start. The private piece is political. I don't think anyone's going to debate. It's not political to say that our public property should have canopy trees and that we should do everything we can to protect them. I just am disappointed. I'm disappointed. I think it's a no-brainer to distinguish between public and private property in the new ordinance. I think it's a must in response to the crisis. And I don't know how you want to do it. That's up to the experts. Maybe it's tree diameter. Maybe it's just a non-starter for heritage tree removal. But I think anyone working for the township shouldn't want to remove heritage trees that are healthy. I think the ordinance should demand it. I mean, that's where we are right now. So that even if there are non-nature lovers on your board in the future, or on the Board of Commissioners in the future, or in township management, there are guardrails. If you talk to township management, they say we'll follow the process. and the process includes you guys. But you are just advisory, and a lot of times it feels like it's just a calculation of how many compensatory trees go in, instead of putting a hard stop on tragic removals of things that are affecting my kids' future and your kids and your families. We need to put a hard stop and not have any government-sanctioned ecological destruction, because that's what it amounts to. Everyone has a pet project. Everyone has an idea for how to make things more modern and more sexy in the township on public property, but nothing is as important as our ecology that's in decline right now, and the bird population and the food chain. Nothing. No project. We're not talking about unhealthy trees. We're talking about why we think it's still okay to remove a tree at all, no matter how big it is, for a project that will be old and run down in 20 years if we're still around. So those are my main points. I just don't think that when the management says there's a process in place and it goes before you guys, and you're following the letter of the law, the ordinance, like you should be, the commissioners then just say, they're busy, they're great people, but they see it as, well, the shade tree ordinance approved it, so it must be okay, because they're tree lovers, they're tree huggers. It must be okay, but you guys don't have the teeth to enforce things that need to be enforced today. And we're dying a death by 1,000 cuts with one heritage tree, another heritage tree over here. Every county in America is doing it. They just see it as a little pet project in a limited scope, but it all adds up to a crisis with the food chain and our bird population. And so I encourage you to draw that distinction in the new plan and make it really rigid for public property. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. And just to let you know, I just typed it into our Excel sheet where we're looking at the ordinance, and I did hear this also come through Paul Vernisi and the folks that I met with in Fennimore. I think I shared that with you on email. The whole idea that, hey, for public land, we really are the owners. We are the taxpayers. We are the owners. So therefore, with private land, we typically, each resident can do as they like, because we're not really in a position to judge what is subjectively and aesthetically nice project versus not a nice project. But public lands, we do kind of have a different tact we could take versus just saying yes if they meet compensatory requirements. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's worth looking at.
I agree, and I'd just like to clarify something, and it's a credit to you, the clarification actually. We're ordinance-driven, so a lot of shade tree commissions are not. We are, so actually, we're not just advisory. We do have more power than sometimes we think we know. And, I mean, you know, this group has talked about strengthening the ordinance. Almost every one of us has talked about it, but we haven't moved to that. But anyway, I just want to make that clear.
You guys are too nice. That's what it comes down to. You got to be more comfortable about this stuff. That's what it comes down to.
No, I think it's more so the way the ordinance is written now. We can't, if you meet the compensatory requirements, we're required to say, yes, there's nothing in there that allows us to judge the value of the project. But that is one of the things we can look at in updating the ordinance.
Yeah. And I think for private property, I mean, no one should be telling who can cut down, in my opinion. Private property is a separate issue. But public, I think it's our duty to do it. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else like to comment? Gretchen? Hello.
It's Gretchen Grobel. I really just had a couple of questions about the ordinance. I haven't, and I'm sure it's up to you guys, but I would love to see the updates, and I was just curious, you know, do I have an opportunity to, you know, comment on that? I would love to.
Yes. So
see that.
Let me take that question first, and anybody can add on. So one, updating the ordinance is a slow process, so nothing happens very quickly, because you've got ourselves plus two others, 7 people that all need to align on it, and we have different thoughts and opinions. So you can absolutely see it ahead of time. I can send you the Excel spreadsheet, basically where we're just tracking this is what the ordinance is today, and this is kind of the discussions we've had so far at how it could change. And then 2, we would very much welcome public opinion. So some people have sent me emails, others, like Paul Vernisi, volunteered to kind of collect at least his community public opinion, but we would welcome anybody. Let's say, Gretchen, if you want to do that on behalf of the Conservancy or do a reach out, we'd love to know what people think.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And I do think it's I mean, I know that part of the ordinance, you know, there are parameters for for residents. And I do think that's important because, you know, so now we allow, what, five trees under a certain diameter to be cut down. So if someone wanted to, over the course of 2 or 3 or 5 years, they could clear cut their entire property. And, you know, I think that, that's something that we should, I mean, I understand it's someone's private property, but I'm just curious, you know, what do other, like neighboring township, you know, do neighboring townships have strong tree ordinances, or other communities have strong tree ordinances that, you know, try to discourage this kind of practice? I mean, John, you probably have.
Yeah, so most, I mean, we're actually pretty strong in that suit.
Okay.
Most townships only go after the heritage trees and don't have any management over, you know, the smaller trees under their, you know, applicable heritage size. So, you know, if we can get it reduced, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We can reduce the 6-inch to maybe like 4-inch, which will help, you know, alleviate some of those people clear cutting some of the smaller future trees. So, I mean, there's a lot of things we can do for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember I lived in a community called the Woods, and I just remember, you know, getting calls from neighbors completely, you know, so like up in arms because a new neighbor doesn't understand, you know, doesn't realize we have an ordinance, and they're, you know, they're cutting trees down in their yard. And so.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, I think it was Trindiferin, if I'm correct, Matt, that did a lot of benchmarking because they wanted to implement a tree ordinance. And so they benchmarked with us, and then they also gave us the output of that. And so we can look at that to just kind of glean maybe some good ideas or best practices. And I can share that as well.
Haverford has a shade tree ordinance, don't they?
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm happy to look at.
Oh, that'd be
I
great.
don't know if you guys are familiar with. Oh, wow.
We're rewriting Newtown Square as we speak, and we're going to put some stronger language as well, so you'll be able to see that in the near future.
I just wanted to also make a quick comment on what Steve Norsini brought up about the tree canopy request. John, will you help guide the RFP at all? Because I'm sure
John will be on the team.
Yeah, you'll have, you know, like, I'm sure that would help. And I think that was it. So thank you, guys.
Any other comments before we close the meeting?
Eileen, I just wanted to ask, where are we with getting the flyer out for awareness of the ordinance? Has that fallen off the radar screen? I'm not sure where that landed.
I think I think the last where we left off was to look at the budget and
Okay.
see how much money remained. But realistically, the printing and mailing shouldn't be more than $5,000, so I think we could do that. And then the only thing, I can email Seth offline since he has that, to give it to Steve to get a quote. And then what we would have to decide is, do we want to carry a certain balance in our fund? For me personally, I don't feel any need to carry a balance. I don't care if it's $1 left at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We won't overspend with Radnor Township. We don't have to worry about that, but I don't feel the need to have like a minimum $5,000 balance. Okay.
Do we, though, maybe, since we're going to redo this ordinance, do we maybe want to wait on this flyer until after we do the ordinance?
To update it with
Yeah.
what the new requirements are, because I think
Yeah,
that's on
because
the
why
flyer.
drive everybody to the website and they're only see the old one?
May I make a suggestion? Because an ordinance update does take some time, right? You folks are going to come up with what you want to see. It goes to the solicitor, who puts it into the legalese, you know, comes back to you, it's going to go to the board. So one of the biggest things I encounter are folks that have no concept of our ordinance. And so they use companies that aren't registered with the township They may or may not have an ISA certified arborist on board. They don't know, and they don't care because they don't think it's an issue, right? Nor do they know what a heritage tree is, nor do they know that they're allowed, per this current ordinance, to remove 5 trees under that. So that's one of the biggest things. Not whenever, many of the calls I get are about somebody who is cutting down a tree that didn't realize what it was. So in reality, an ordinance change will take months. And I'm just suggesting, people knowing that we have an ordinance, people knowing that you need to use. So one of the reasons the ordinance requires the arborist to be registered is, we then know there's an ISA certified arborist. There's also an expectation that they understand our ordinance. But if you just get contractor X from outside the area and say, I want to take these 22 trees down, they're going to be like, great, here's the price, we'll start next week.
So as I understand it then, Steve, you're recommending we should just go ahead and get the flyer out and so people start to
Even
know.
if it's in a different, I know Frank went through a lot of work, or not Frank, Seth went through a lot of work. Even if it's a single page that goes out in some other fashion, maybe that doesn't cost as much, because I know, with $5,000 with what James wants to do and what the price Seth came up with, I don't know that you have enough to do that, but I really think it's important understanding the needs and reasons for the shade tree ordinance to change. Fully get that, fully on board with that. But people do need to know. That, to me, and I'm not going to speak for my colleagues here, for Ricky or for the consultant, that's the biggest thing, is folks don't know. And it's not just people that just move in. It's folks that have lived here for a long time. They're like, what? I don't know.
I joined the Shade Tree Committee.
Yeah, they don't know this committee exists. They don't know, they just say that's a big tree. We've had people come to us that they don't like trees on their property.
Yeah.
They just say, and I'll have to go stop them, and luckily I'll catch them at 4 trees, but for whatever reason, they don't want trees on their property. They don't know there's an ordinance. They don't know they need a clearing permit. They don't know they need to stop by and appear before this committee.
Okay. Claire and I have been working on getting the flyer, once, the flyers in final format, of sending it out to the realtors. So we have a pretty good list now, Claire, right? And I know from doing the fall planting, Eileen, that putting it on Facebook was incredibly effective. So even if we just put the flyer up on Facebook, that wouldn't cost any money either.
And have Molly Gallagher put it on Instagram and anything down
Right.
at the
She
township.
can use all our forms of communication. Molly Gallagher's fantastic public information officer. She can get the word out.
And possibly, instead of spending that on printed stuff, spend $500 on Facebook sponsoring. You'd probably hit 20,000 people for $500. There's only 10,000 households in the township, I think, so. Use the rest for planting trees.
I also like the idea of getting out this information in the fall, because as people are kind of starting new with
Yeah,
school,
good point.
it's a good time to remind everybody of ordinances and things that we can do to keep our canopy.
And the school board meetings, if we could get a flyer and post it up right before the school board meetings, whichever the big one is this fall, when everybody's going to be watching, whether there's going to be a mask or school's closing. I think they had like 500 or 1,000 views.
Wow.
That would be free. You just have to work with whoever the tech guy is, I guess.
That's good. Yeah, that sounds great. Gretchen?
I just wanted to just add that the Wayne Business Association is another really good resource that
Definitely.
that I'm sure that they might do it for free, but normally they charge $25 to create like an e-blast and share that information. And if you send it to us, I'm happy to share it on the Conservancy's constant contact. I know that one of our prior interns was working with Jenny on a poster. I was hoping over, the years that I I was thinking that it would be great to work with all of the real estate agents and have this as a printed sheet that would go into a new home packet. Because it's a crucial piece of information, and literally, it could be one or two-sided that could go in. I think that would still be an important conversation to have with the realtors in the area. I just think that would be a great way to get it in people's hands. So, thank you.
Okay. I'm taking notes here because, of course, I volunteered Seth for this. So I'm telling Frank and Seth what I volunteered them for, and just listed out all the different vehicles of how we could distribute this electronically, which I think is in perfect keeping with a shade tree committee. So that makes sense. Yeah, so great idea. Thank you, Ginny, thanks for raising that.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay, great. Meeting adjourned. Enjoy the evening.